Welcome to Midlife Schmidlife, the online community for listeners who want to redefine the middle years and recreate their lives lived to the fullest. Join our host, Liz Applegate, as she interviews guests over the age of 40 who are turning their maybe somedays into today and going after their dreams. Let's get the party started.
Hey, Schmidlifers, welcome to episode 11 of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I'm your host, Liz Applegate, your transformative life coach and midlife strategist, helping women redefine the middle years to recreate a life filled with passion and purpose. I'm waving a special hello to all you returning listeners and a special welcome to the new listeners of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I really appreciate you being here, and I so appreciate all the love that's being shared over at the iTunes reviews and ratings. I want to remind you about a special series that I have coming up in September that I'm calling the Midlife Toolbox series. I'm bringing on experts to give their advice around focus areas of health, style, career and business, self-care, and relationships. I'm so excited about this series, and I invite you to share this with your friends. Also, be sure to opt in to get special insiders tips from the series. You can just head over to the homepage of midlifeschmidlife.com. You will see a box right there. So be sure, enter your email so that you get these special insiders tips. I wanted to share a project that I'm working on with other life coaches that will also be launching in September called the Courage in Action Telesummit. Be sure to go over to courageinaction.telesummit.com and sign up to receive doses of courage in your inbox starting September 12th. This will be 11 days where we are releasing interviews that we have had with special guests, and you will be able to hear the stories from women all over the world on how they bring in more passion and purpose with the courage that they practice every day. So again, head over to courageinaction.telesummit.com and sign up. Today's guest on the Midlife Schmidlife podcast is Jana Martin. Now, Jana was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer at the age of 42. She shares her story of courage and perseverance, as well as her special, loving, wonderful sense of humor in this interview. Jana is such an inspiration to us all to begin living without regrets. I just know you are going to love meeting her, and I just can't wait to have you experience being with Jana. So before I ramble on and on, let's head on over to the interview. Hello, Schmidlifers. This is Liz Applegate here, and today I am here with my guest, Jana Martin. Jana is a freelance copy and travel writer who currently just recently moved to Hershey, Pennsylvania. When she's not working, she's feeding her inner adrenaline junkie, and I love to follow all of her adventures by skydiving, whitewater rafting, and zip lining. Now, her midlife tada is recently, she is on a mission to start a nonprofit that helps breast cancer patients transition to life after cancer and provide a space that allows them to reconnect and reinvent themselves. Welcome to the show, Jana.
Thank you so much, Liz. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you. This is actually the first time that Jana and I have spoken in person. We met online through a web design course and have been in each other's circles for a while. So I'm just so excited to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I know I've sort of silently been on the side bench of admiring your work, and I love what you're doing with this.
Well, vice versa, because I've been admiring yours as well, because you have some great things to talk about today.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm really interested in this nonprofit, and can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be?
Oh, absolutely. So about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer. And it started off one day, I was getting dressed and had found a lump in my breast, and normally I probably would have ignored it, but, that inner women tuition, kind of said, go get it checked out. Got it checked out, and it turns into that I had, stage 2 cancer. And so what happened was that, through the process of, going through the doctors and getting chemo treatments, I found there to be like, when I reached the halfway point, and it was about the time when they were making the transition from one chemo treatment to the next chemo treatment, because I got 2 different stages of chemo. And so they were both kind of like, they're the worst kinds of chemo that you can get. And I was making my transition to the second stage, and I realized I just wanted to have this time in my life where I could just breathe, because everything happened so quickly. It was like a matter of 6 weeks, from the time that I was diagnosed to, I had no girls, I had no hair, and so there was a lot of transition going on, not only outwardly, but inwardly. And I just wish I had had time to breathe, just to sit and just go, not be a mom, not be a wife, not be a daughter, just breathe and just be me. And that's the time when I thought, wouldn't it be nice to provide this really great space where women can come and they can just unwind, let everything that has happened kind of sink in a little bit, let go, and just be able to make this transition from doing, from being who they were to who they want to be now. Because I kind of look at cancer like, anything in life, anything major happens in your life, as a way to restart. Kind of, you push the restart button and go, okay, I realized a few things about life. I wasn't fully mindful. Like for me, I realized I wasn't fully mindful of the life I was living. I had a very good life. I have no complaints, but I hadn't pushed, like I wasn't really being mindful of every single moment. And, there was a few aha moments where, so when you're faced with the fact of, if I get this type of cancer back, it goes directly to my bones, my organs. And the only thing that they can do is make me more comfortable until I go. So when you're faced with that kind of reality, you start assessing your life and what you want to do. And there's this time frame where, I remember thinking, well, I have no regrets, which I was really kind of shocking for me, because I realized, I wasn't being mindful in the moment, or at least I didn't think I was mindful in the moment, but I realized at the same time I didn't have any regrets. And I thought, what a great place to be. And not many people get that realization that they have no regrets. So during this time frame where I was, analyzing my life and not knowing if I was going to, be around for the next couple of years, it just got me into this mindset of things have got to change. Life has got to be different. I need to make bigger, bolder, I like to say bigger, bolder, more beautiful moves, and start really, I don't know, just start being more mindful. I don't want to keep saying mindful, but being more aware of where I'm at and taking full advantage of every opportunity that comes to my door. And so no matter whether it's relationships or business opportunities, I've just realized that no is not going to be in my vocabulary anymore to a certain degree. And so it was during this time frame where I realized I think women need this space, no matter what they're going. It could be cancer or anything else that they're going through, with major transitions. We were talking about the empty nester,
Right.
where you just have to take a moment to breathe and just be mindful of where you're and where you just kind of grasp that clarity of where you want to go from whatever has just happened to you. And so I kind of look at the Pink Ribbon House as that place for breast cancer patients where they come and just breathe.
So the name of the nonprofit is the Pink Ribbon House. And I know that this is still in planning mode and there's just so much to take in there. And I want to go back a little bit though. This is Midlife Schmidlife, so we do talk about age, which is always so interesting to me because I never thought I'd be having the age conversation so much.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out why you invited me, because I'm only 29, so.
Oh, I know. I am too.
I think the good thing with midlife is that you're also known to be delusional about things, certain things in your life, and you're allowed that.
I know. I think you have to be delusional, though.
You do.
Delusional with a sense of humor.
That, I'll tell you, that is the one thing I wish more women like at our age would just really just find humor in everything and anything. Because, you get to this point and you're just like, what else can happen? And if you can't make fun of it, it's just such a waste of time, I think, sometimes.
Right. Yeah, and that was something that I have to tell you that I felt, because we're friends on Facebook, and you always had that sense of humor no matter what you were going through. I just always admired that because I thought, "Oh my gosh, here she is making fun of just anything about yourself or the situation." And I just thought how many people would just not have that lightness. And it was just, I just have to share with you that it was just very inspirational to me how you could laugh about the fact that your hair was growing back. And, you just, I don't know, it just provided such hope, I feel, even for us who weren't experiencing what you were experiencing. So I just wanted to add that in for you and just give you high praise and just lots of love around that. So,
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you, can I just tell you a little short story around
yeah,
that process because I think it's so important. Um, so for those who aren't familiar with like the cancer journey, you're getting given the diagnosis and then you're told to go, you have like this team of quote unquote doctors. And I was in the cancer center after my diagnosis with my husband, and we were sitting there, and you have to go through and get all these tests and x-rays and all this stuff, and you're drinking this really god-awful stuff. And so I was sitting there drinking my thing, and this woman came in, and her daughter was behind her, and she was just so grumpy and so miserable and just had this sense of always being irritated. And for whatever reason, I had this thought go through my head. I thought, I have a choice. Starting this journey, I have a choice. I can choose to let my emotions get the best of me and take it out on everybody else, or I can choose, this journey and be mindful of the lessons that I need to learn and be present for whatever is put in front of me. And at that moment is the moment that I decided that I was not going to take this very seriously. Like I was going to poke fun of it and I was going to be I'm a smart ass by any means. I know I probably shouldn't say that, but
no, that's
I
totally
am
fine.
because it helps me get through things. It's like, if you can't make fun of it and you can't be like, I don't take things too seriously, and it's just been a gift for me to get through everything. I mean, people say, "Oh, you're so happy all the time," and when I was going through cancer, I had my downtimes. I had my times where I was sitting in the bathtub, with a bubble bath and a glass of wine, crying, going, "Oh my God, am I going to my
Sure.
kids grow up?" I had those moments, but they were very rare and very few, and I'm so lucky because not a lot of people get that opportunity. They don't have that mindset of, okay, yep, I've fallen, no big deal, pick myself back up, dust myself off, make a little fun of it, and keep moving forward. And I really, it's provided me having those skills of, not caring that you fall. I don't care what other people think of me, which is a wonderful gift that you can give yourself, is not to care what other people think of you. And just pick myself up and go, okay, I'm gonna keep moving, so
Right.
yeah, so that's sort of the background of how I just learned to deal with being
hmm
positive about having cancer for the most part.
And the sad thing is we all meet people along our journey who have an attitude like the woman that you ran into. And if you could, what advice would you give her?
Mm.
I'm not saying that we all should give advice to people that we meet along the way like that, but some of us I think sometimes can get kind of caught in that loop as well. And what's some advice you would give?
If I had to sit down across from that woman, I would say, let it go. Like, let go. Just, it is the most scariest thing sometimes to let go of things that you hang on dearly, whether they're good or bad for you. You always want to hang, tight to things because they're comfortable. It doesn't mean that they're good for you. And
Mhm.
so I think if I had to sit across from her, I would just say, let go and be kind enough to yourself to love yourself no matter what you're going through. When you're sitting there with needles in your arm and, you're feeling like, crap, because
Yeah.
as the chemo is going
Yeah.
through your body, you're just like, I am, there are times when I looked at my husband and my husband knew that he should not invade my space. Like
Right,
it made him
right.
move, like his little senses went off and said, you know what, I'm just gonna take a step back and just sit here and read.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the biggest thing was just learning to love myself and just be even in the moments when I wasn't feeling good, is to give myself that ability to go, you know what? I don't have to be a perfect wife right now. I don't have to be a perfect mom. I don't have to be a perfect friend. I don't have to be, like giving yourself permission to just not, just to let go, and I think that would be the biggest advice that I would give her is just give yourself permission just to let go. I don't know if it
Right.
makes sense or not, but it's
No, it
really
does.
helped tremendously.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that actually, yeah, I have goosebumps because that's just really such good advice for anybody, no matter what they're going through, you know?
It really is. I think
Mhm.
people tend to be very, I think especially women. Okay, so I'm just speaking to the women.
Yeah.
We tend to be uptight because we want everything to be perfect. We want everything in our life to be picture perfect, or at least we have in that mindset. This isn't supposed to be happening to me. Like I had no family history of cancer. So this blew me out of the water. I mean, I'm sitting on the table and they're doing the ultrasound on me and I knew something was amok when she had me sitting up in weird positions and was trying to get different angles of my girls and I remember the technician or the doctor coming in and she's like, "Well, we wanted to do a biopsy." And I looked at her and I said, have you ever had those moments where something comes out of your mouth before you even think about it?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, often.
yeah, me too. So more than I want to care to admit. And the question came out was on the is it good, bad, or ugly? Or I think it was more along the lines. I think what I asked her was that what are the chances of me having cancer? And
Mhm.
she said fairly certain that you do. And at that moment when she said those words, like sorry, at that moment it just felt
Mm.
like somebody had dumped an ice bucket of water on me. It just you're trying to process it and I started to cry and she walked away and I thought I like I don't know
Right.
what I just stepped into but I want out and
Right.
um it's just I think you have to realize life isn't perfect and things happen to us that we don't want to happen and sometimes there are things that happen that we create that we don't realize we're creating and then it happens to us and we're like whoa, where'd that come from? And
Mhm.
I think it goes back to that advice I gave earlier was just letting go and going, okay, I'm going to stop right now in the midst of all this and I'm just going to let it go. And just I'm
Yeah.
going to let any attachment of any feelings, any emotions, any ideal things that I think should be around this and I'm just going to let it go and I'm just going to be present and just walk through it. My father had this saying and I hated this saying until I his saying was just pull up your bootstraps. And I thought, well, that's just crappy advice. I don't want to pull up my bootstraps. I want to sit in the mud. I want to wallow. I want to cry. I want to, my emotions. And the funny thing was, I totally understood what his advice was when he died. Because the day
Mhm.
he died, we were there, and the day he died, all I wanted to do was crawl into bed and cry, and just stay there for a couple days. And what I realized was I still had to get up. I still had to feed my kids, still had to feed the animals, still had to feed my husband, still had to, like I had
Right,
this
right.
things. I still had to do things to keep my life moving forward that were not an option. And I thought, wow, that's kind of ironic that I would learn this, the thing that he kept saying to me on the day that he died was just sometimes you just need to suck it up, pull up your bootstraps, and just sometimes you can't do anything about the situation you're in and you just have to kind of ride it out. And I think that is probably the hardest thing that people can learn is to just sit still or stand still and just write it out, and just see where the next wave takes you. And
Wow, Jana, just I'm like totally blown away. Like I could like soundbite every single thing you've said so far.
this
So
is this is me on 2 cups of coffee, hun. If you got me on 1 cup of coffee, hey, not have been pretty. So
I love it. I love it. So I never did get to ask the question. I know you're 29, but at- how old were you when you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
I was 42.
42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, gosh, that was the last thing on my radar, like to get. And I knew the empty nest thing was coming up because the kids are growing up, and everything. And I was, I mentioned, before, like when I had the diagnosis, it was just, I remember sitting because I went, unfortunately, and I will recommend this to anybody who has to go through this, is to always take somebody with you to the doctors. because when you're given this news, it is not the best to be driving, by yourself. And
Exactly.
unfortunately, I made that mistake. And I remember sitting in the parking garage, just sitting there, just bawling my eyes out. My husband was on the other side of the country, and I called him. And, I told him everything. And he's like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to come home? I said, I don't know what I want you to do. I don't even know
Right.
what I want to do. And because it was the last thing that it wasn't even on my radar, wasn't even anywhere near what I thought was going to, be.
Sure.
But I will tell you that what I have learned looking back on everything, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. And I know that sounds strange to say, but it taught me so much about myself, because when you can walk into a room with no girls and no hair and hold your head up high, I mean,
Yeah.
people say this, like someone had mentioned, I'll never forget it, we were at a Pizza Hut and I overheard this couple look right at me, and this guy said, I don't even know what that is. And I thought, you piece of little, I just,
Yeah.
thought, wow, people, I don't even know, you might want to cut this out.
No, I'm not going to cut it out.
I thought the reaction was so cruel and so and it just made me even more determined to hold my head up high, with what I was going through. I thought, when you hear comments like that, and I thought, I am still a woman. Just because I have no hair and I have no girls, I am still a woman. And the funny thing is about going through breast cancer is that I always identified myself. It was the two things that I loved about myself was my girls and my hair.
Right.
And what I
Yeah.
learned was when that got taken away was there were still other things about me that I really loved. Like I got to know other parts of me, not just physically, but like mentally. I fell in love with myself, who I was, without the exterior part. And I'll tell you, that was probably the best gift that somebody could have given me. I realized I was strong. I realized that, you know, who I was at that moment was not who I was going to be. And I realized that it takes, strength and courage, but it also takes compassion for yourself to go through something like that. And I didn't think I had it in me. I didn't think I was that strong, and I didn't think that I had that much chutzpah, I just,
Right.
so I got to know me outside of the external parts. And I think that's, was really good. I see so many of these young girls, and this is probably not anything, I have a 21-year-old, and thankfully she's not like this, but, I look at these young girls who are just all about the outside and they don't develop the inside. And I think you have some hard lessons ahead of you.
Right. Right.
And it doesn't matter what age you're at. If you don't take time to develop who you are as a person inside, it comes back and bites you. It really
Yeah.
will throw you for a couple loops.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that because I have to say and this makes me I was one of those 21-year-olds. I totally admit that, who was very much I used to model and I was very much into appearances. Of course, at that time it was in the 80s and everything was just larger than life. And of course, I think at the age, you think everything's larger than life, let alone the 80s.
The 80s were awesome.
Yeah, I know, I miss the 80s. I'm gonna be totally honest, I miss those shoulder pads, and I miss the
Oh,
big hair.
big hair and the little, what were they, like the stockings? They weren't really socks. What would they call them? The leg
Yes, I don't
warmers. Those, love
Yes,
those.
I know, I love
They
those
were
too.
awesome. And great music too.
Yeah, I know, I'm a total 80s fan, so, but what I have noticed is in this transition into midlife, I feel very invisible, and it's been an interesting thing to admit to myself and recognize. And now I certainly don't want to downplay. Like I feel like you went through like the extreme version of what I'm going through at this point in time. So, but just such a great lesson that you point out there. And even if we're not going through the extreme version like you are, I just feel like we hit this time in our lives and we really realize what we counted on to be ourselves is really just such a small piece of who we are.
Yeah. You know what, hon? Don't ever discount what you're going through. Like, don't ever say you must be going through worse than I am, because I'll tell you, when I was sitting at I got this lesson when I was sitting at the cancer center, and I was sitting across from women with, a 30% chance of living and stage 4 cancer, and there was these ranges that were so above what I was going through. That I was, nope, I'm good. I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to sit here and just close my eyes and take it all in. So don't ever discount, what you go through or compare it to what other people are going through, because everyone has their own journey and it's meaningful to them, and that's what all it's supposed to be, is where you're at
Yeah.
with what you're doing. Because, well, I won't go there. I won't go there because I don't feel like getting hate mail. But anyways.
Okay, well, if it comes up again, please go there. You have full
I have full permission. Okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
really want to get me in trouble, don't you?
No, I don't at all. Nope. No, I like the truth being told. I like the truth being shared. So that's and sharing your story is important. So, but on to that. I know there's a big piece of your heart loves Costa Rica. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes. Oh, okay, so where do I begin with that one? I absolutely love Costa Rica. I had the fortunate opportunity to go, and I wrote for a vacation rental travel magazine, and an article I was covering a vacation rental magazine. And I don't know how to explain my journey, but like 2 years before I got it into my brain that I, wanted to do the travel writing, or it's funny, the travel writing I wanted to do since my daughter was 5. She's now 21. So I finally got around to doing it.
Right.
And the funny thing was, 2 years before, I don't know what, how you have these little intuitive hits. I don't know if I read an article or a blog or whatever, but it was about Costa Rica. And I started doing more research, and I started, diving more into this little country. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go there. And I would tell my husband, I'm like, I want to, first it was, I want a vacation there, for like, and he's like, that's nice. And
Right, right.
and the US is good, meat and potatoes are good, let's just keep there. And for 2 years it went from, I want a vacation there, to first, and I've never been to this country before, I wanted to live there. So the year that I got the cancer, we were celebrating our 20th anniversary, and we were trying to look up places to go, and we agreed that, I think he kind of caved in. I think because of everything that I had. So we celebrated, our 20th anniversary there. And the strangest thing was, as soon as I got off that plane, I felt like I was home. It was just, here I was in a country I've never been to, no, didn't even know, but as soon as I landed in that airport and stepped off the plane, I was like, I'm home. And
Mhm.
it has just been, we went 1 year, we went times for 2 weeks apiece, and just love it, And the funny thing was, I always love to tell the story about my husband, which he probably will kill me for hears this, but the funny thing was, he's like, I'm not moving to a foreign country, and I'm especially not moving to a third world country, and I'm going on and on about how he's not doing something. And it was funny, the third day that we were there on our first visit, we put in an offer for a property, because he fell in love with it just as much as I did, and it's funny when you're Skyping with your kids, from Costa Rica, they're saying to you, I've never seen Daddy so happy. I've never seen Daddy so relaxed. And so it's just, to me, this like little magical place on earth where you can just unwind and just, like, you don't have a care in the world, and you're just in the moment, and everything is so beautiful there. The Costa Ricans are so friendly, and they're just the nicest people you will ever meet on this, at least in my opinion. They're the nicest people that you'll meet.
Right.
And we just had the most, every time that we've gone back, we've always had such a great experience. And it's funny, the second time we were waiting in the Atlanta airport to go to Costa Rica, I'm like, I looked at Joe, my husband, and I said, I'm so excited. I'm going home, and
Aw.
he's just like, oh crap. I think he knew when I made that decision that I wanted to be, that was home. He knew he was in
Right.
trouble. So, we're on this like little journey of, trying to get all our ducks in a row. And, I go every chance I get, and I love it. And, eventually, for early retirement, we would love to, be there on a permanent basis. And it is, I just think, I don't know, I can't say enough about it. I love the country. I love the people.
Yeah.
I love you don't have all this busyness. And I think that's what I love about it. There's no sense of you don't feel that pressure. I got to go here. I got to go there. You walk into a grocery store. You don't have all the hoopla that you have in grocery stores here. It's just simple. It's just a very simple life, and it's beautiful, and you can't beat the views. And like I said, I can't say enough about it.
Yeah.
I could talk. That's a whole another podcast. But I really, if I were to, I can't really sum it up in a paragraph or two, or to you, is just that it's just, for me, you know, it's home, and it's this little piece of joy that every time I go, I get a little bit fonder of it, and so that it's always a good thing.
Do you think that your love of Costa Rica helped inspire the Pink Ribbon House?
Absolutely. In fact, that's where I want the Pink Ribbon House to be, because there is just a sense of I've seen people who are really stressed out. I've seen others who are really stressed out, and then they go and they're just like this happy little relaxed, people. And I think that's the thing, is that when for me, it's really important for the Pink Ribbon House. Like, there's ambience that I want for it, where when people come, they're just going to, everything is going to kind of slip away for them. All their worries, all their, everything that they are stressing out about, it just sort of slips away, and they can take in the view, and they can take in the beauty, and they can it goes along with that whole thing. I keep coming back to it about breathing.
Right.
And sometimes that's the only thing that you can do when you're going through situations, is to breathe and go, okay, I'm here. I'm at this moment. I'm just going to take a deep breath, and I'm just going to keep walking. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it may be for a step, it may be for 2 steps. You may run a mile doing it, and then have to go back and go, okay, I'm going to take another breath, and keep moving forward. And so for me, Costa Rica is this place where it's about healing. There's this just sense of I feel like, and I'm not the only one who has said this, it's about letting go. And I keep coming back to that, about any journey that you go through, it's about letting go and breathe. And so for me, my goal is that I want the whole idea behind the Pink Ribbon House is to have it in Costa Rica, and have it to the point where, the guests that come, that they're not, they don't have to pay for airfare, they don't have to pay for food, they don't have to pay for rent. Everything's free. They just come, and all they have to do is just focus on themselves and just be them, and that's probably the simplest way that I can put it. And there's, I think people overlook just that simple step of being able to breathe as they go through difficulties, and being able to just be mindful of, where they're at.
Wow. Well, it makes me want to visit Costa Rica for sure.
Well, I have several spots I can direct you to.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because I have a very similar story with Belize, and
That's also on my bucket list.
It's very similar, and we can talk about that on, after this episode, but it was very similar to where I had never been there and just felt this pull there. It's interesting because my husband and I weren't even married when that interest came about. And then when we finally did, when we started dating, realized that he had just about the same books and everything that I did. So it was just kind of funny. And we ended up spending 10 days there for our honeymoon. So it's interesting how those pulls and longings work out.
I kind of put that towards intuition. Like, there's something about your gut that says, I don't know. And you can apply this to anything in your life, but sometimes your gut pulls you in a direction that you're like, wait, I never even thought of that. I don't even know what that is. Why does it keep coming up? Why does it keep repeating? And I always think that if you don't have the courage to explore it, you're going to lose out on something big. And so that has always been trying to be the forefront of my life, is the mantra. If it takes you to a scary, spot, and it's like, pulling you there, then you just have to kind of pull up your bootstraps and go for it. Because if you don't, I think, the universe gives us those little intuitive hits for a reason. And if
Right.
you follow through, then you're kind of missing on what it has to provide you. And so, not to sound woo woo, but
No, no.
but I think that you have to really trust yourself. And I think no matter what process you go through, or no matter what situation you go through, you really have to trust yourself. You have to trust your gut and your intuition and whatever you want to call it. But you have to. So many women. So I'm going to take this back to cancer just for a second, if you'll
Yeah.
with me. But so many women ignore that. When I was going through the process of interviewing doctors, I had to go see a radiologist. And I was talking to the nurse about, my tumor, and she goes, be lucky. She goes, her words were like something along the lines of, be lucky, because there are women that come into her office with tumors the size of her breast. And I thought,
Mm.
wow, how can you go through, like, I just noticed a little bump. Like, I just noticed that, and it was kind of bothered, because I put on my, where it was like the strap or where my bra would be, like, and so I
Mhm.
noticed it, and I thought, how can you go through life and not feel that tumor being the size of your breast? Like, how are you so, and she struck me, her comment was, they're so busy taking care of everybody else that they don't think that they have time to take care of themselves.
Mm.
And or they're not, or they don't trust their gut, or they don't trust their intuition about it. And so I'm a real big fan of trusting your intuition and taking it to where it leads you, even if it's in those scary spots.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and there's something too about coming into this time in our life, and we kind of touched on that about with the empty nester. The kids are going out on their own, and I know before actually we started recording for the episode, we were talking about, or maybe it was when we were recording, I don't remember. It's my midlife brain showing up right now. But see now, and now I just lost my train of thought. Good God. Thank God for editing. Hold on a second. I'll get it back in a minute. Okay. So it was about our identity and us taking, being mom, taking care of the kids. And I'm not really quite sure what I'm asking, or if I'm just making a comment that, at this time in our life, when we are rediscovering who we are, and with all those, actually, you know what? I'm just going to cut this whole thing out. So let's.
No, you know what? I think I know where you're going with this, or at least
Mhm.
I don't know. You know what it is? It's like when you're going through midlife. So you hit midlife, for most people. You hit midlife as a woman. You're getting close to that empty nest syndrome,
Mhm.
and when your identity is tied up in other people, such as your kids, it really is hard to kind of take a step back and start redefining who you are. I remember I took this business course, and it was so funny. I was in with these group of women who were just amazing on their own, just being present. And I looked at it as, the best way I can explain it was that here I was, my kids were almost grown. I knew that I had to come up, I figure out who I was, what I wanted to do. I had absolutely no clue, but I also had absolutely no fear of trying on different things. And a lot of them were younger. A lot of them were, you know, I already know who I am. I already know what I want, in life. And I love people who are like that, who automatically, right out of the gate, they know what they want, and I'm kind
Right.
of in admiration going, wow. Like,
Right. Right.
can I get some of that? Because I don't have any of it. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing. No clue where I'm going. And
Exactly.
it was so funny because I would just try different things. So like today I think I'm going to be this, and today I think I'm going to do that, and today, because it was like I was trying on different hats and different shoes. And at some point in our life, like we tell our kids, if we're any worth in our salt, we tell our kids they can be anything that they want to be. And we truly believe that when they're 5 and 6. But somewhere
Mhm.
along the line, as you grow up and you become an adult, and at 40, it doesn't look so charming anymore when you say you can be anything you want and you start trying those things out, because people look at you like you're flaky, or you don't
Right.
have you've lost half your, you know what I mean, like you're not
Right.
reliable. Because
Right.
one day, did she last week, wasn't she supposed to be a, I don't know, a palm
Yes.
reader, and then the next day, like, I think I'm going to,
Right.
something weird. But the thing is that for me, it was another part of another journey. For me, it was about, figuring out who I was. I didn't care what anybody else thought of me. It was about me trying to test who I was, like what skills did I have, good, because I spent 20 some odd years being a mom. I didn't, finish, I was like 8 classes shy of having a bachelor's degree. The only skills I had was motherhood, and that doesn't always transition very easily into the business world. Sometimes it
Right.
does, sometimes it doesn't. But I had no clue who I was after kids, and I didn't know what I wanted. And then I started, someone had given me a really good piece of advice of, start thinking about back in your childhood what you wanted. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, I wanted to jump out of planes, and I wanted to be a cop, and
Right.
I wanted to, none of those things were working out. I couldn't run after a criminal for the life of me. So I started looking and it started driving me back to things like I always was a writer. Like I always loved writing. I remember sitting in my room and just hours upon hours, I would just write stories. And
Mm-hmm.
it was the one thing that, I just really could get lost in. And so when I realized that at the heart, no matter what I do, I'm a writer, it brought this sense of peace about me, because I
Mm-hmm.
thought, one more piece to figuring out who I am. So not only am I a wife and a mother, but I'm also a writer, and I love to travel, and you start picking up these pieces, and it doesn't always necessarily come. All those pieces don't necessarily come at 17 and 18 years old. Sometimes
Right.
they come at 20. Sometimes they come at 35. Sometimes they come at 44. Sometimes they come at 60. I
Mm-hmm.
think too many people expect right out of the gate you're supposed to have a map in your hand and know where the hell you're going,
Right.
and you don't. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And I have to question too, like the women that you said you were talking about that know exactly what they want. I think back to that time and I think, myself at that time and I think, well, I thought I knew what I wanted, but I wonder sometimes if I wasn't just picking up on that sense that I had to know what I wanted. So I was just like, okay, this is it. I'm wearing this hat today. And I think when we get to this time in our life that we can really, when we don't have the, I mean, we still are caring for our kids. I mean, don't get me wrong. You and I talked about that. The worries are even greater, but we're not having to wake them up in the morning and cook for them and dress them and do all this, day-to-day tasks so much. But that gives us an opportunity to really explore who we are now. And and you do care less and less about what others think about you. So you can just finally decide, hey, I'm a writer. I was a writer before anybody told me I couldn't be a writer.
right. And I think too is that, like I said, I think so many people care about what other people think. I mean, there's how many people in this world, like billions of people. Are you really going to care what billions of people? I mean, that's overwhelming. To care
Mhm.
what everybody thinks about. I think the only people that you really should care about what thinks of you is yourself. You know what I mean? And not in a self-centered way, but in a way that at the core you're a good person. You know at the core that you're intentionally trying to do things the right way, even though they fail miserably. You really have to know who you are as a person. And I think, like for me, like after cancer, I kind of, it's funny. My husband and I joke about it. I got a backbone. It's the funniest thing because now
Mhm.
I just realized life is too short, and I'm still in that 5-year window. So for me, life is too short to mince words. Life is too short not to cut to the chase and tell you how I think. Life is too short not to, be who I'm supposed to be, or at least try to be who I'm supposed to be.
Right.
So when you start living life with intention and you start living life like you don't know when your time is up, it you stop caring what other people think of you. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to go out, in the world with two different shoes on and realize it when you're at the bookstore and take a picture of it and post it on Facebook and go, hey, like, I mean, your story that happened.
Right.
It's okay, like, not to be embarrassed about things that happen because you think, oh, what will people think of me? Who cares? It happened. Make fun of it and move on. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that I don't know if
No,
that's
we
advice to give to people, but I think
no.
when you reach this age, you start caring you start caring more about what really matters. You know what I mean? And stop caring less about, like, I remember when the best way to tell you, and I hope they're building a house across from us, so I hope you can, that's not
Yeah,
interfering. But
that's fine.
the best thing I can tell you is, like, I remember at 20 some odd years old, I thought I knew everything. Like, I thought I was smarter than everybody. I knew everything. And at 44, I know nothing, and people are smarter than me. And you're just like, I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. Like,
Right.
and what was I thinking at 20? Like, what a dumb, And then I look like my kids will say something, or they'll do something, and I'll look at my husband, and I'm like, they'll learn.
Right.
They're gonna know, Oh, they're gonna look
It
back
is
on this
so
day and
true.
go, Mom is really smart. Mom knew. And at least that's what I hope. So, oh,
Yeah, no, I think they will. I definitely think they will.
yeah. It's just.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's just you get to this point in life and in midlife, and I'll tell you something, and I'm being straight up honest with you. I would not want to be anywhere else. I love being 40 something. I really do. I'm more comfortable in my skin. I like who I am. Actually, I should take that back. I love who I am. Like, I am more comfortable in my own skin at 40 something than I was at 20 or 30. And I think that just comes with age and experiences and stuff. But I wouldn't trade where I'm at, and I wouldn't trade. I would not want to be 20 again if somebody paid
Yeah.
me. So,
I so agree. I so agree. I watched, my sons and I think of where I was at their age. It's easy for me to look at my 24-year-old and think, "Oh, wow, I remember what it was like to be 24
yeah,
or 22 or almost 21." I wouldn't want to go back there. I really wouldn't. I would like to go back there if I could go with this sense of self,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
would have a really good damn time, and not worry so much about shit.
yeah.
So,
Wouldn't it be awesome?
yeah.
I think if you could go back when you're 20 with this amount of confidence, like so many people. So, okay, so I'm just going on this for like 2 seconds. So many people
Yeah.
let their experiences beat them down. So some people, when they get to this age, they're like, I'm done. I'm ready to go. Like, I'm just,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to me, I'm just like, bring it on. You got stuff for me. I got an answer for you.
Yeah.
It might not be one you want to hear. I'm like, I am more self-defined. I don't know, self-defined is the word I'm looking for, but more like in your face, not in hopefully not in a rude way. But I'm more assured of who I am as a person. So if anybody came and tried to attack my character or attack me as a person or my family, I am like right there in their face. Like, I'm just, oh no, that's not where, because I'm so confident in who I am. Where 3, 4, 10 years from ago, that would never have happened. I would have been like, "Oh, you don't like me. Oh, let me do 40
Right.
things to make you like me." Now I'm just like, "Oh well, you'll get over it." So,
Exactly. Or you won't.
or you won't. It's
And
not my problem. And
yeah.
I think when people realize what their problems are and what other people's problems are, and can make that distinction, because a lot of times people think, "Oh, they don't like me, so it's my problem that they don't like me." And a lot of times it really isn't. It's just they're dealing with their own issues, and they're reflecting it on that person. So when you can make that when you can make that distinction of, okay, this really is my issue. I do chew my food with an open mouth. Okay, I need to stop that. Versus, okay, maybe that might not have been a good example, but
No, that's a pet peeve of mine, so that's a great example.
this coffee is starting to wear off. But versus, like, I'm not. If somebody's opinion says, "Oh, she's not pretty," well, who are you to say I'm not pretty? I think
Right.
I'm, pretty damn good for 44 years old. Like, those are examples. Okay, so anyways, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to distinguish, what other people's problems are and what your problem is. And once you can make that line of whose problems are whose, it just makes your life a lot lighter and a lot happier and a lot more, you realize, okay, I've done everything I can. I can't do anything more. Then it's their issue. Like, I've done everything that's humanly possible. That's
Mhm.
their issue, not mine. And I think when people can realize that, they become more confident in who they are, and they become more relaxed, and life is easier. So many people try to convey their problems on other people, and they need to learn to stop that. They need to learn
Yeah.
to really just focus on themselves.
Yeah. So do you think that cancer has given you that gift?
Oh
To
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I can say that hands down. I think like I mentioned before, for me, cancer is like kind of this eye awakening. Like when you sit there and you seriously don't know if you're going to be there for your daughter's wedding or see your son grow up to be the man he's going to, that you would like to see him be, or you don't know if in a week or 2 weeks if you'll be able to give your husband another kiss, or you just your priorities shift big time and quickly. You start putting things into perspective, and you have to, like, you don't have a choice. You start putting things into perspective that you didn't think were a problem or a priority, and things start getting really clear. Lines start getting cut. People start getting cut out of your life. Like, I don't watch the news anymore because of the negativity. I don't have negative people in my life. I have a no tolerance policy for having negative people in my life. And the negative people that I do have to have in my life, I come up with other solutions on how to deal with them.
Right.
And how to reframe how I think about them. So there wasn't what's the word I'm looking for? There wasn't a clear-cut guide on how to go through this, and I sort of had to make things up as I go. You know what I mean? Like, figure it out as I go. But
Yeah.
I have there's just, this is what it is. There is no more. It used to be before cancer, there was black, gray, 4 shades of gray,
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
8 shades of white. Now it's just, there's this color and this color. There's this problem and this problem. I don't deal with a lot of stuff that I used to worry about before. Because I can't change it. I can't change what's going on in the news. I can't change how other people respond to me. I can't change whatever. And so the only thing I can change is myself. So when you realize that, it makes life a lot simpler and a lot clearer of what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate.
Right.
So
Yeah. Wow, that's just such a great message, Jana. And I know I honestly know that someone is listening to this and needs to hear that. So, I know that I've needed to hear that. So, thank you. And I can't believe it, but our time is up. I can't
well,
believe that it went by so quickly.
this is so
So
much fun. I am so glad that you asked me to do this.
yeah. No, you just had such a great story, and I was so glad you were willing to come on board and share, and I know it's just going to be so well received and by our listeners. So I thank you so much. Now I know how can people connect with you online?
So they can visit my website. It's www.thecostarricatravelgirlsguide.com.
Awesome. And I will have that link in the show notes, which will be midlifeschmidlife.com/Jana. So I will have the links there. And Jana, I just want to thank you so much for sharing the morning with me, sharing a couple cups of coffee and great words of wisdom. And I just really appreciate it.
Oh, it was all my pleasure, Liz. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Jana, for joining me and for this interview and just spending the time with me. I just know that our listeners are just going to be so inspired by your message. And Schmidlifers, I really do hope that Jana's story is an inspiration to you to live and make your own bigger, bolder, and more beautiful moves. Don't forget, you can connect with Jana and find the links to find her online over on the show notes at midlifeschmidlife.com/Jana. Now join me next week. My guest will be Vanessa Soto, who is launching her own podcast in September called The Side Passion Project. And I'm so excited about this podcast, and it really resonates with me, and you will understand more next week when I have a conversation with her. So tune in next week for episode 12. And don't forget that the Midlife Schmidlife podcast is now sponsored by Audible. You can head over to midlifeschmidlife.com/book and get your free 30-day trial of Audible plus a free book download. Now, I have to tell you, listening to podcasts and audiobooks is one of the best ways I have been able to grow in my own learning and my own confidence, help me build my own business, and just really I don't know. I just can't even imagine what it would be without that. So head on over, download your free audiobook. If you want recommendations, I highly recommend Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert or any of the books by Brené Brown. That is a great place to start. So I hope to see you, or actually, I won't be seeing you, but I hope that you'll tune in next week for episode 12 of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast.
Thanks for joining Liz for the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. Remember, some days are never on your calendar until you put them there. Until next time.